Okay, guys, we're gonna start with this story that is called Carl is on the Case. But I'm noticing something right here. It says characters. And I have scene 1 in there, scene 2 in here. So I know that this is called a drama or play. And they will be asking me about the scenes. They will be asking me about this part right here, number 1. Can you see that it's different from the rest? It has another kind of font. It's italic or italicized. And so I know they're gonna ask me what about this part. They're gonna ask me why we have different scenes, what is the difference between those, and obviously there should be like a message or a theme. The characters are going to be learning, or well, the main character is going to be learning something, and that will lead to the theme. So I'm going to be paying close attention as I read because I already know what they're going to ask me. So besides those things, I need to be paying attention to the sequence of events, and because there's a question that I know is going to be there, the best summary for the play. Okay, let's start. So we have Carl is on the case. Well, I can assume that it's maybe a mystery or something. We have Carl, who is a boy who loves detective mysteries. There you go. I can confirm my prediction. We have Mike, who is Carl's best friend. Mrs. Watson, a librarian who lives next door to Carl. If she's a librarian, she will have a lot of knowledge of things. And Agatha, Mrs. Watson's big orange cat. That's funny. All right, scene 1. And we have do you remember how these are called? These are called the stage directions. All right. So it says in parentheses, Carl is in his living room. Oh, that's the setting. I'm going to underline that. Living room. Reclining on the couch while staring at the television with his friend Mike. Dramatic music and an announcer's voice comes from the television. All right. Okay, so this is a mystery. And now for the Saturday afternoon mystery movie, The Case of the Missing Jewel. Okay, I know that this is the title of the movie because, well, it's all in capital letters and it has quotation marks. A flash of lightning suddenly brightens the room. Carl sits upright. Okay, a flash of lightning suddenly brightens the room. That means maybe someone turned on the light. Maybe he was watching television like in the dark. Carl sits upright and Mike yelps. Oh, he's with Mike. A boom of thunder sends them racing to the window. Oh no, nobody turned on any lights in there. So it's about to rain, and so the thunderstorm or something, the thunder scared them. All right, Carl, a storm to go with our detective movie. I love it. I can infer something about Carly here. He maybe he doesn't scare very easily. He could be a little bit brave. A scream comes from offstage. Did you hear that? Yes, I did. We'd better investigate. Can you see? With this sentence, I know that he's very daring. Like, yeah, I'm gonna look for the information. I'm not scared at all. Mike peeking through the living room curtains. Maybe we should just leave it alone. Well, I can infer that Mike is kind of the opposite of Carl. We don't want to miss the best part of the movie. Don't worry, I'm recording the movie. Let's go find out what's wrong. What's better than a real life mystery anyway? Carl exits stage right. Mike groans and reluctantly follows him. There's an underlined word they're gonna ask me about reluctantly. If I have no idea, I have to look for context clues. The first thing that I have to see is what they're talking about. I must understand what's going on in this situation. And then I have to look for similar words that I already know the meaning of that could be related to this unknown word. And once I get to the question and I have my 4 choices, I'm just going to plug it in to see which one fits. But I'm going to do the first the first two before I read the question. Because I already know they're going to ask for that. So Carl exits the stage right, so he's going to go outside to investigate. And Mike groans, I know this word, and reluctantly follows him. He did follow him. Did he want to go? No. So reluctantly must mean like he did something he didn't want to do? All right. I'm going to leave it up to there, but I know that he didn't want to go, but he went anyway. Scene 2. I'm going to look for the difference between scene 1 and scene 2, why the play has just different scenes in here. And I'm going to pay attention to the stage directions here. Carl and Mike enter stage left from the front door of Mrs. Watson's house. So they're not in the living room anymore, right? A spotlight shines on the front door. The rest of the stage is dark. So that change between scene 1 and scene 2 is the setting. They're in a different place, so they had to do another scene in there. All right, Mrs. Watson, that we know is the librarian and is a neighbor, off stage. That is, you can hear her, but you don't see her. Oh no. So I can infer that this lady was the one that was screaming before. Carl knocks on door. Mrs. Watson, it's me, Carl. So he wants to know what's going on. Okay, and we have in number 12 some more stage directions. The door opens. Mrs. Watson stands just inside. Lights illuminate her living room and the connecting kitchen. So I can use visualization right here. Carl, are you okay, Mrs. Watson? Can we help you with anything? Well, I can understand that Carl is kind of brave and he has a good heart. Mike says, or we could just go. You're probably busy. Turning to leave. I can use visualization, so he's just, turning back. Mrs. Watson says, I've lost one of the library's rarest, most expensive books. In over 30 years as a librarian, I've never been so careless. Just admitting my mistake is such an embarrassment. Oh, this is a disaster. What am I going to do? Right here we have a problem. I'm just going to write it like that. So she lost an expensive book. Carl, we'll be happy to help you look for it. He's offering to help. And we have in parentheses, pulls a Sherlock Holmes-style detective hat from his back pocket and puts it on his head. A serious look is on his face. When did you last see the book? Okay, he's looking for clues. And he's an admirer of Sherlock Holmes, I guess. Mike rolled his eyes. This action right here, just in the directions, tells me that he doesn't like the idea of helping the lady with the lost book. Or it could also mean that he doesn't like it when Carl is showing off, right? Number 18, Mrs. Watson. Oh, I'll be so grateful for your help. So she said yes. Ushers Carrie and Mike into the house. Okay, we have two, I don't know, the same characters, right? They got in the house. They got in. Mrs. Watson's cat comes out from behind the couch. Okay, behind the couch. Oh, he's gonna do something in there. Mrs. Watson. Oh, don't mind Agatha. Now, what was I? Oh, yes. I'll tell you what happened. Yesterday, as I was leaving the library, I noticed that the binding of our first edition of The Raven had a little tear. So I wrapped the book carefully, brought it home with me, and put it right there on the desk. At least I thought that's where I put it. So this is the beginning of the problem. She took the book home. I'm going to underline that. The Raven, this is the title of the book. I know because of the capital letters and the special font in there. And it had a little tear, so she wrapped it and placed it there. Mike scratches Agatha behind her ears. Oh, he likes cats. I can write it down if I need to. He's being friendly. Carl, so you're not absolutely positive you put it there. This means 100% sure, right? Mrs. Watson, yes, I'm positive. Well, pretty positive. She's not 100% sure. Carl, why don't you and I retrace your steps? This is following your steps up to the moment where she lost the book, right? Tracing your steps back. Has it ever happened to you? Okay, let's try to make a connection in there. I'm just going to put a dot in there. Mike pokes around on the desk and then walks around the couch, flips up cushions, peeks underneath, and mumbles. That's what you do when you're looking for something. He's looking in there. It has to be here somewhere. He reminds me of my mom when she loses things. Mrs. Watson, let me think. I got home late yesterday. The traffic was simply terrible. Mike says, well, it says nods eagerly, like saying yes, super fast. My dad was taking me to Ranger Scouts last night and the traffic was bad. So he's confirming what the lady's saying. Carl gives him an annoyed look. Maybe he got upset, a little bit upset because he was interrupting the lady? Interrupting? I'm gonna write that note. Interrupting. Alright, Mrs. Watson, I came in through the front door and put my keys on the table. Put my keys on the end table next to the couch. That's where we always keep ours. Oh, he's meddling. Mrs. Watson, then I walked across to the living room to put the book on the desk. That's the last I remember seeing it. Carl, we're missing something here. Agatha meows loudly. Mrs. Watson, it's almost time for her supper. Mike, wait a second. Do you feed her at the same time every day? I wonder why he needs this information. Mrs. Watson says every single day. Carl, and yesterday you got home later than usual, right? Mike, my thoughts exactly, Carl. Wow, they're thinking that the cat has to do something with it. I think, based on the information that I have just read and what I know, I think the boys are thinking that since she was late, she couldn't feed the cat at the same hour. So the cat found something to chew on. Meaning the book. I don't know. Let's see. Mrs. Watson claps her hands together. Oh my goodness, boys, you solved the mystery. Mrs. Watson rushes into the kitchen, the boys following behind. She opens a cupboard and spies the missing book on a shelf next to a box of cat food. Oh well, my inference was wrong. It's right here. So she got home very stressed and she placed the book and took out the food, right? So that's what she did. I don't know how to thank you, Carl, grinning. Are those your famous freshly baked cookies that I smell? Holds out a plate of cookies. I like your feast, boys. This is like the reward, what you pay, right? Okay. Okay, that was a good story. All right. Which of these helps Mike solve Mrs. Watson's problem? What was the solution to the problem? What was the clue he found? Okay, I'm gonna read my choices. A. The detail about the Ranger Scouts meeting? No, well, if we go back, we're gonna see that he mentioned this just to confirm that there was a lot of traffic that night. I'm not so sure that that solved the problem. I don't think so. I'm gonna put a cross in there. It's wrong. Letter B. The smell of her cookies that happened at the end. Letter C. Her keys on the table. I'm not so sure about that one. Agatha's meowing. What happened before? What happened first? The keys or the meowing? All right. I think this is the distractor. And since the cat made that noise, they remembered that she's fed at the same hour every day. So that's the key to solve the problem. All right. Remember, place a little dot in there so you are counting the ones that you are 100% sure you have correct. So you can count at the end how many you think or you believe you have right. Number 2. This play is divided into 2 scenes because told you they're going to ask that. Okay, what happened? What did we say changed between scene 1 and scene 2? Remember? The setting. Okay, let's see. And also, there was a new character, the neighbor, the lady. Letter F. A character in scene 1 is not present in scene 2. This is wrong because in scene 1 we just have the 2 boys and in scene 2 we have the 2 boys plus the lady. Letter G. The setting changes between scene 1 and scene 2. Yes. First they're in the boys' living room and in scene 2 they are at the neighbor's store. H. The conflict is presented in scene 1 and resolved in scene 2? No, the conflict means a problem and the lady had the problem and the lady appears in the scene 2. So this is totally wrong. And letter J, the dialogue begins in scene 2? No, because there's dialogue in scene 1, so I know this is totally wrong. Yay, I found the correct answer. There you go. Next one, I'm going to put a dot because I'm sure 100%. Which of these is the best summary? Oh, I told you they're going to ask for that. What is the best summary for the scene 1? Not the whole story, just the first one. And if I go back, I can reread the story. I can reread the scene. And I will remember that it's just the boys. They were watching a movie in the living room. I think they were in dark or something. It was a mystery movie. And there was a thunderstorm and the lightning and the noise. They got scared and they heard someone screaming. Right? This is what I do when I'm going to look for the best summary. I'm going to try to go back and reread and check for the most important events, and then I'm going to match that to the best choice in between the choices that I have here. So the first one, letter A, it says, while Mike is visiting Carl, during a rainstorm. Well, could be. They hear someone scream. Mike is frightened by it, but Carl is not. All of this is true, but I think something is missing. Okay, I'm gonna move on. I'm gonna put a dot in there, I'm not so sure. Carl and Mike watch television during a thunderstorm. They hear a scream, and at first they think it has come from the TV. They never mentioned that, so this is wrong. Letter C. As Carl and Mike begin to watch a mystery movie, they hear a scream. Carl goes outside to investigate, and Mike follows. Alright, this could be. I'm not so sure. Letter D. Mike is peeking through Carl's curtains when he hears a scream. Someone is yelling for help. Wow. I think we're missing some important information in letter D. Because why is he peeking through the window? And it doesn't mention that they actually go outside and help whoever needed help. So I don't think this is a complete summary. So I have two choices. One of these is a distractor and the other one is the correct one. So let me decide between these two. I'm going to have to read them again. While Mike is visiting Carl during a rainstorm, they hear someone scream. Mike is frightened by it, but Carl is not. All right. You know what? It's not only the fact that one is scared and the other one isn't, but that they actually go out and help, no? So I think this is a distractor. I'm going to write letter G because it doesn't mention the important detail or the important part where they actually go outside. That's why the scene changes. So remember, when we're talking about summary, we are looking for the VIP, the very important parts. So I think that's a distractor. Let me check my choice again. As Carl and Mike begin to watch a mystery movie, they hear a scream. Carl goes outside to investigate and Mike follows. Yes, this is correct, and that's where the scene ends, where both boys go outside. There you go. Okay, so let's move on. Question 4. Read this excerpt from scene 2, and they put the information over here, so I need to read this carefully. Mike nods eagerly. My dad was taking me to the Ranger Scouts last night and the traffic was bad. Carl gave him an annoyed look. I remember we were talking about this, like, oh my god, why are you interrupting? And he was just confirming what the latest version of the traffic, horrific traffic, the night before. What can the reader infer? I love this word. About Carl from this excerpt. So what can we infer about Carl if he is looking at him annoyed? So it has to be something negative. Let's see. Carl thinks that what Mike is saying isn't important. My mom gives me that look when I'm talking about things that are not important. I can make a connection to that, so I'm just gonna put a dot in there. I'm gonna have to go over all my choices and see. Carl doesn't believe that the traffic was bad. I don't think so. Because if he didn't believe him, he wouldn't be annoyed. He would be like saying no with his head. So I don't think this is it. Letter H. Carl envies Mike for being a Ranger Scout? No. They're friends. And letter J. Carl thinks that Mike has been rude to Mrs. Watson. Let's think. That could be a choice too, because he was like, oh my God, where are you? Why are you interrupting? Right? Because he gives him this annoyed look. But I'm gonna think as the character. I'm gonna try to be in character in Carl's shoes. So when have I give anyone an annoyed look? I think in this situation, this is a distractor. Because they were just beginning to talk to the lady. She was just starting to tell her story, right? Like they knew the problem was that the book was gone. And they were retracing her steps, and she was like, okay, there was a lot of traffic, but that was something that happened outside, not inside the house. So it was not directly related to the vanishing of the book. I think Carl was annoyed because it's like, come on, it's not that important. Let her talk. We're retracing her steps. We want to solve the mystery. And having heavy traffic that night had nothing to do to the problem in this case, because the book actually vanished inside the house, right? That's how I know that is the correct answer. And letter J was just there to distract me, because I may think, oh, he thinks that, you know, he's being rude for interrupting, but that is not it. All right. Number 5. In paragraph 8, the word reluctantly means, I remember that he didn't want to go, but he actually stepped outside anyway, and he followed Carl to the neighbor's door, and he didn't want to because he's not as brave as Carl, and he was a little bit afraid. That's what I know. I'm gonna look for a word that I can relate to that. So we have playfully. I don't think so. He didn't want to go. This is incorrect. Impatient is like the opposite of patient, when you cannot wait, and I don't think that's the correct word for this. Admiring, was he admiring his friend? I don't think so. We have unwillingly. On means no. Will is when you want to do something. Will is when you want to do something. You have the will. So, this one actually sounds pretty close, because on means no. I know the prefix on means no. Unwillingly means not wanting to go. This is my correct answer. All right, we have question 6. To playwright included thunder and lightning in scene 1, most likely 2. Okay, I remember they were watching a mystery movie, and then there was this lightning and thunder, and they kind of jumped out of their seats. So this is a little bit like foreshadowing. All right, let's see. It has to do with mystery. So let's see my choices in number 6. Create suspense. Oh, yes. This one sounds close. I'm going to finish reading my choices. Indicate that the main characters are afraid. No, because they were actually enjoying the mystery and they got afraid afterwards. So be very careful. I think this could be a distractor. Alarm the audience. They didn't want to scare us. And explain the book's disappearance. We didn't know about the book at that time. It was just the first scene. So I have two totally wrong, and I think the letter G is actually the structure. Indicate that the main characters are afraid. You know why I know it's the structure? Because of this word. The only character that was actually afraid was Carl. Remember? He didn't want to go outside, but his friend was actually very brave. So it's just to create suspense. There you go. Number 6. Number 7. How is Carl different from Mike? Okay, remember Carl was a little bit afraid and he didn't want to go outside and then he didn't want to help the lady. He just, when they were knocking on the door, he was like, okay, you're busy, and he was turning around. So let's think about the difference between these two characters. Carl is more honest. Carl is more fearful. Carl is more curious, and Carl is more careless. Okay. Let me go back to the first scene. Okay, I always need to double check because sometimes I can get confused with the characters' names. So in scene 1, in the first scene, we have that Carl says, a storm to go with our detective movie. I love it. Oh, did you hear that? Yes, I did. We'd better investigate. There you go. So the difference is that Mike was actually the one who was afraid and Carl wasn't. Carl wasn't afraid. He wanted to investigate. So the difference will be, if he wanted to investigate, so is he honest if he wants to investigate? Is he fearful? Is he curious? Oh, is he careless? Careless is to do things without caring for them. There you go. We have found our answer. So he's curious. He wants to go and investigate. And my textual evidence is in scene 1. There you go. Which of the props used in display is needed for the resolution of the conflict? All right, this is a word that you will see a lot. Props are, when we're talking about dramas or plays, props are the things that you use that help you with your character. Like, remember that he was going to investigate the vanishing of the book, the disappearance of the book, and he took out his Sherlock Holmes hat. That could be a prop. So let's take a look at the choices. We have letter F, a book. Okay, resolution of the conflict is like how they solve the problem. So what thing did they use to help them solve the problem? A book, a set of keys. Did the set of keys solve the problem? No. A plate of cookies, a detective hat. That wasn't even close to being helpful, I think. How can we tell that the problem was solved? What was the problem? The disappearance of what? There you go. That is the correct answer.